This is Charlie Pellerin, President of 4D Systems. I'm here to familiarize you with the briefing we use to introduce team leaders to our powerful 4D team building processes. This briefing is in two parts so the video can fit within YouTube's upload limits. If you're not briefing a NASA team, delete the black circular logo in the upper left and delete the reference to our NASA sponsors. Put your own logo in place of the logo. In fact, we encourage you to modify these slides in any way you see fit, as long as you remain true to the facts as presented. Slide 2. Risk has two sides. Ask the team leader if they have thought about the fact that there are two parallel aspects of team performance. We illustrate this metaphorically with an image of an engine. The left-hand side is a soft side, which we name Team Social Context. The right-hand side is the hard side, which you probably find more familiar. Which side's limitations are more likely to cause team performance shortfalls and project failures? Yes, of course, it's the left or soft side. What is the reason for this? It is not that the social side is more important or more powerful. The reason is that technical teams tend to ignore the social side. Until now, there have been very few or no social side development processes that appeal to technical teams. This briefing will show your clients that you have very efficient quality assurance processes for the soft side that you can bring to them. I close this with my definition of technical teams. Technical teams include all teams staffed by college-educated or advanced degreed professionals. Slide 3. Flawed social contexts cause failures. We now use space mishaps to illustrate the power of team context shortfalls to cause failures. My first insight came from Space Shuttle Challenger's explosion. I had a science payload on Challenger and for a brief time wondered whether my payload had somehow caused the accident. Moreover, I had several good friends who had worked on Challenger, and I watched their careers destroyed as the failure review unfolded. There is another important reason to look at space failures. When these accidents occur, the investigations are extremely thorough. Professor Diane Vaughan, in her book The Challenger Launch Decision, named normalization of deviance as a cause of Challenger's failure. This is a phenomenon where behaviors that are deviant in broader terms become locally normal and generally accepted. The management forums at Marshall Space Flight Center required a much stronger technical argument to delay a launch than continue ahead. My deep learning, however, came after the launch of Hubble Space Telescope in April of 1990 with a flawed mirror. I was in my 8th year as NASA's Director for Astrophysics. The image on the lower left shows the best the telescope could do with a very well-known galaxy, M100. When the Failure Review Board reported to the Congress how we spent 15 years and $1.7 billion to build a telescope that would not work, they named a leadership failure as the root cause. I was the leader of the Hubble development team. This finding barely registered as I was busy managing the horrible aftermath of the discovery of the mirror flaw and with mounting the space servicing mission that ultimately fixed Hubble. The servicing mission was entirely successful. The image on the right is the same galaxy, M100, with the repaired telescope. Similarly, the Columbia Accident Review Board concluded that culture shortfalls caused the accident. I have since studied many other failures, including participating in failure review boards. The findings are entirely consistent. Flawed team social contexts increase risk and cause mission failures. Flawed team social contexts also cause overruns and poison customer relations. Slide 4. Team social contexts act like fields. Context powerfully drives behaviors. We now leave sophisticated space missions and look at ordinary life. Would you behave differently when you were making or receiving a marriage proposal? When you were having dinner with your fiancé's family? When you were at your bachelor or bachelorette party? If you were hijacked during your honeymoon? Would you expect sanctions if you behaved inappropriately in any of these contexts? If you made an inappropriate remark at your fiancé's family dinner, would you get a kick under the table? If you're not partying hard enough at your bachelor or bachelorette party, Would people pressure you to party harder or drink more? If you behaved inappropriately during a hijacking, would your life be at risk? We sense context and adapt our behaviors as if guided by an invisible field. If you had a bar magnet on the table, could you feel the field with your hands? Of course you could not. You might recall that early in life you sprinkled iron filings on a paper on top of a bar magnet and shook the paper. You could then see the outlines of the magnetic field. What kind of probe could we use to measure invisible team social context? We measure team social context by measuring team behavioral norms. Which behavioral norms ensure high performance in low-risk social team contexts? Slide 5. The 4D system simplifies. When I became a professor of leadership in the business school at the University of Colorado in 1993, I wondered what I could offer the field that would be completely new. I recalled a saying from undergraduate physics: the right coordinate system can turn an impossible problem into two really hard ones. As a first step, we need a simplifying coordinate system. Note, you can read about the development of the 4D system in my book, How NASA Builds Teams. The 4D system analyzes, which is a fancy word for simplifies, the characteristics of effective teams and leaders into four central components that we call dimensions. The green cultivating dimension addresses the universal human need of feeling appreciated by others. The yellow including dimension addresses our need to feel a sense of belonging. The blue visioning dimension addresses our need for realistic and hopeful futures. The orange directing dimension addresses our need for knowing what others expect of us and having the resources and capability to succeed. Since we believe that addressing the four dimensions is both necessary and sufficient, we measure and manage two behavioral norms in each dimension. Slide 6. Behavioral norms and contexts. This slide geometrically connects the behavioral norms that we measure and manage with high-performance team contexts. For example, in the upper left, do you want a team context of mutual respect and enjoyable work? Do you believe people perform complex tasks more efficiently when they are enjoying what they're doing? Then you must express authentic appreciation for your teammates' contributions. Do you want a context of willing and energizing collaboration? Then you must address the interests you share with others. Do you want a context of aligned and efficient action with people interacting with each other totally authentically? Then you must appropriately include others. Do you want a context of high trustworthiness and efficiency? Then you must rigorously keep all your agreements. Do you want a context of sustained and effective creativity? Then you must express reality-based optimism. Do you want a context where solutions to problems appear magically? Then you must decide what you are 100% committed to and live your life accordingly. This alters your perception to reveal solutions. Do you want a context focused on outcome without victims and blamers? Then you must resist blaming and complaining in yourself and others. And do you want a context of clear and achievable expectations? Then you must clarify yours and others' roles, accountability, and authority. Slide 7. Team benchmarking. Time-strapped teams, particularly like our 15-minute online team development assessments, or as we call them, TDAs. They like quantitative comparison of their team performance with other, quote, peer teams. The image at the top of the chart is the histogram of 300 teams, mostly NASA project teams, assessment scores organized by quintiles. Note, even though we have more than 700 teams in our database, we stopped updating the benchmarking baseline when we observed that we were providing systematic, organization-wide improvement. Continually updating the benchmarking data would constantly, quote, raise the bar. Now you might wonder whether NASA teams are a good benchmark for technical teams in general. Early on, we studied various groupings of teams to see if there's any difference by team function or host organization, i.e. NASA Field Center. There were no statistically significant differences. I believe that the breadth of 300 NASA teams provides an adequate benchmarking scale for technical teams in general. I like categorizing team scores by quintiles because I think it is a reasonable estimate of the precision of the measurement. Below the benchmarking curve on the left, you can see the team context of bottom scoring teams. As we researched these teams, we found that one or more what we call structural/managerial shortfalls limit these team scores and by inference performance. To learn more about the 7 deadly sins, read page 242 in the English language version of How NASA Builds Teams. I can tell you from personal experience that if we had performed 4D TDAs for the Hubble teams, the scores would be in the bottom quintile. In contrast, the right-hand image shows the context of a top benchmarking team. I think it is rather obvious this would be a high-performance team with low risk of technical failure. Which team would you rather work in, and which team would you rather sponsor? This completes part 1. I suggest that you now proceed to view part 2.